One member of the audience asked if Professor Feldman and Commander Granfield would want to talk to each other a bit more about the ethics and the practice of engagement in Iraq and Afghanistan at the various levels at which they have experienced it.
Could I ask you a question? Would
Sure.
that be okay? Can you think of a concrete example of what struck you as some kind of an ethical dilemma that you faced in the PRT context when you were commanding the PRT?
An ethical dilemma. Wow. I don't know if I ever thought of something like that. I mean, when you were talking about, the fact that in a lot of cases the military is out there imposing kind of what our mission construct is upon the local government and making decisions based on that, I would say we tried really hard in our case not to do that, because I truly did not want to create, United States in Nangarhar province, because they had a system. It wasn't always so effective, and it wasn't always, what we wanted to see it. And so, yeah, I mean, the dilemma is, okay, on one hand, we're here to try to make a central government that's strong, but Afghanistan historically has never had one. So then how do you work within the code? And that's why we really focused on the code of the Pashtuns and how they did business. And so looking at the...
Can you give an example of that? How did you use Pashtunwali to...
we did what was called the Nanawati ceremony, because Nanawati means basically sanctuary of last resort. And it's a code used when somebody literally has a knife at your throat and says, I'm going to kill you. Why should I give you sanctuary? Why should I give you forgiveness? And what was happening with the Marines, the maneuver unit, was getting IED'd down in the south in 3 southern districts, Kogiani, Peshawar-Wagam, and Shirzad, but they're all Kogiani tribe. And so the Marine commander and myself went down there and with the deputy sub-governor and the chief prosecutor from those areas, with lambs and sheep and rice, enough food to feed the village. And basically myself and the Marine commander said, here, we're guests here. You've invited us here, and we don't want to be perceived as the Soviets. So we're asking for sanctuary of last resort. And so we're bringing you the lambs and the sheep and the rice in hopes that we can, start from a clean slate and work together towards the future, towards your future. We did it in Pashir, we did it in Shirzad, because Kogiani district was the problem district.
Did they buy the idea that you were their guests?
Oh yeah, and in fact in the end they came up with a neighborhood watch kind of organization where one village would say, we're going to take responsibility here, we're going to take responsibility here, we're going to take responsibility there, and we saw a significant decrease in IEDs against the Marines. So.
I'm sure there's a lot more in this discussion.
Yeah,
Professor Feldman, do you have anything further you wanted to expand on?
No, let's let other people's questions
All right,
come in.
okay.
But actually, I just wanted to know, because you mentioned it, why were you wearing the green scarf? You said you were going to tell us.
The reason why I wore the green scarf is because when I first arrived at the PRT, the governor, my chief translator, Najib, who's from Nangarhar, the director of Women's Affairs, and several of the women came to me early on and asked me if I would mind wearing a scarf, because they thought it was very important to the people of Nangarhar to show respect. And so after much consultation with the key leaders in the province, including women, I made the decision that I was going to be respectful and that I would wear a scarf. I chose the color green because I wanted to send a message to the elders in the district. It wasn't because it matched my uniform, as many people think. I mean, green represents Islam and very, sacred things in Islam. And so I was sending a message, basically, that I was, understanding that it's an important context. And so at the end, when I left, and I did that in public, I wore the headscarf. When I was meeting privately with the provincial leadership, I did not. When I was out in the districts, many times I didn't have my scarf. I actually just wore my floppy hat. Because again, it's being respectful of covering my head. And at the end, when I was leaving, the very senior mullah, who was the provincial council chair, who had the most votes, who absolutely hated the PRT, hated the US, hated everything that we stood for, actually got up and spoke at my farewell, which I was shocked. He said, I don't necessarily like the US, I don't necessarily like the PRT, but Lynda's shown us respect. And for that, we are, as a community, grateful.